I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda. We do not have voting buttons, so I'm going to ask for a vocal approval here. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. And the consent agenda passes unanimously. We're going to move on now to the regular agenda. We have one item listed under new business tonight, and that's item 3R. This is a study session for Plan Peoria AZ. We'll hear a staff briefing and engage in discussion regarding draft goals and policies being considered for inclusion in the upcoming update to the Peoria General Plan. No action will be taken at this time. Staff, would you please kick things off for us?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, it's Lori Deaver back before you this evening to talk about the general plan. This is a study session item, so this is discussion purpose only, informational in nature, and hopefully we receive some good quality feedback from you guys. I didn't come alone, as you can tell. We have more of the members of the Plan Peoria team in front. So I'm going to do quick introductions, starting with the gentleman on my left. That would be Mr. Chris Haggis. Going all the way down, Randy Proch. He has escaped from planning, but as you can see, he's into transportation. He's going to be presenting one of the chapters this evening. As you know, all the way at the end, we have Chris Lemke, traffic engineer. I've almost demoted you, sorry, sir. In the back, we have Brendan Foray, the assistant traffic engineer. Going to my right, Cody Gleason, senior planner. And we have Amanda Beck, who is planner. This is just a portion of the team that has spent many hours putting the information together that is before you this evening. And so I do want to recognize all of the teams, both internal, all of the comments that we received external, all of the board and commission members' comments that we have received to date, our leadership and city council, because to get us to this point, it has been a tremendous amount of work. And so coming before you this evening, we believe we have a good starting base to continue the conversation. And so I do want to take a moment to recognize everybody going forward. So just to do a kind of a brief update for those of us, for those commissioners who were not here, the 2019 general plan cycle is going on currently right now. We are looking to overhaul the major general plan, or do a major general plan amendment and do a comprehensive rewrite this time around. We're going to be working on developing a working draft, a full working draft of that plan coming soon. That will be out for public comment in July, and we'll kind of talk about that. We'll then continue to incorporate comments as we go along. So one of the things I wanted to talk about this evening is this is an iterative process. If we are not able to complete all of the material tonight, we respectfully will call the meeting hopefully at about 8 o'clock. And then we'll ask for comments in written form, so send those to us directly. So we want to be respectful of your time this evening, but we do know we have a lot to cover, so hopefully we can get through a good chunk of it. We'll be coming back before you later on in October, but before that, we'll make sure that we provide updates to you as we go along through this entire process. And we're not done, even though we come back in October for a recommendation to you, because we still know this is such a comprehensive rewrite. We're still going to continue to listen. There's going to be a chance between after council consideration in November till we put this on the ballot to continue to refine and make the general plan be the best document that we can have it out onto the ballot. So we have a good amount of time still, and we want to make sure that the plan is the best plan that we can put forward. So a little bit more. I got to do the General Plan 101 for our audience that actually tunes into our meetings. So for their education purposes, what is a general plan and why are we here? So the general plan is a regulatory document. It provides policy. It's a framework. It has the vision for the city. It guides us for the next 10 to 20 years and beyond. It looks at current and future development. We are one of only few states, if not the only state left, that the general plan has to go to the voters for consideration every 10 years. But in between that process, you can make an amendment. And there is what we call a major general plan cycle, and we have a minor that you would see on a regular basis. Major general plan amendments are regulated by the state, can be heard once a year, once you submit for a major general plan amendment, has to be heard in the same calendar year. We are going to submit this working draft, if you will, during the 2019 major general plan cycle. So in July, at the July meeting, we will formally present kind of that case, if you will. So we've been before you a number of times, and we appreciate you guys not kicking us out again. So we're back before you. But if you remember, we had 2018 to get the general plan and some of the key maps and everything to bring us to the state. Now, this is really, truly a very large chunk of effort to update the plan to be reflective of today's conditions and, as to the best of our ability, focus on the road ahead and provide the framework that we need in order to make adjustments as things pop up. So, and again, one last time, we're going out for fall 2020 out to the voters, so we still have some time to get this right. So just to briefly touch back, we have 6 themes. They become the major chapters within the new document framework. These 6 themes were developed through extensive community outreach. We're going to have team captains for each of these tonight. So these 6 themes, these icons and everything else associated with them will keep reappearing tonight. So these are the 6 themes going forward. Relationships. Chris likes to call it the mothership, so I will throw it out there. This is the mothership graphic as it's known. So the general plan is the vision. It sets what we want to be. We're looking out to 2040. The goals and policies, the goals are the expectations of what we want to be. The policies are how we get there, and sets the framework, if you will. That's not the only thing. It just doesn't, the plan just doesn't sit there. We use it on a daily basis, and how do we do that? Each department has a number of master documents that they have. Either a master plan, could be strategic policy documents that they use, implementation tools. So what you see on kind of the outside of the circle is how these themes that we come up with in the general plan, how we take from policy, setting the stage from a department standpoint, and how they are working to make that policy a reality. So those documents, such as our zoning ordinance that we normally talk about, or the design review manual, those come in and play then the next role in development, if you will. So we take the goals and the policies of the general plan, we put them into an implementation measure through the zoning ordinance and the design review manual, and then it translates out to what you would see as a commission through the cases that we would bring forward. So the land use plan we normally talk about when we have a minor general plan amendment, that's something that we would reference within the presentations that we normally would do. But how does this translate in what you would see as a resident on a daily basis? So let's take a look at it from an economic standpoint, if you will. If we have a robust economy that puts dollars in our coffers in order to pay for programs and services. So if we have a robust economy, diverse industry, we are able to weather economic conditions better. The better that we can do on the economic side, the more money for programs and services that you see. That also translates into the number of trucks, the number of staff. It's an operating budget. From so start to finish, there's a connection from the general plan to what you see on the daily basis on the resident side. You just probably never knew that in that regard. From the commission standpoint, you do see this on a regular basis, key pieces of it through the development projects that we pull forward. So, but when we do present those projects to you, it's not just planning. It's transportation, there's water, wastewater, and everything collectively, cost of development considerations that we pull from that we have to justify when we make a recommendation before the board. So that was just kind of playing 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, if you will. So as I talked about, we have the 6 themes. These are the chapters, kind of give you a glance of what they're going to look like. Feel free to suggest any wordsmithing of the text. We're not quite finished with that one. This is just a preview. It's a work in progress, but these are what they look like right now. So with that, for this evening's festivities, Cody is going to kick us off with economic prosperity. I have the pleasure of smart growth, and then we're going to continue down as we see here. So each of the team captains are going to start the discussion. At any point in time, please stop us, ask a question if you have one, okay? All right.
Can I just interrupt real quickly and let the record reflect that Commissioner Joanna Conde has joined us? Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. So as Lori said, tonight we're going to be introducing several of the themes from the general plan. This one before you right now is economic prosperity. You might think of simply economic development when you hear the word economic prosperity. Ultimately, you're going to see a lot of crossover in all of the goals and policies that we're showing to you tonight as far as how they're interconnected and how they make for a complete vision of the city. And maybe you'll see the next slide. There we go. So with each of our themes, as we're calling them, we have a purpose statement. That purpose statement identifies really what the focus is of that particular chapter of the general plan. So we're trying to tell you the types of things that we're going to be covering in that chapter and the real crux of that component. In this case, economic prosperity, the focus is, again, as Lori mentioned, that economic driving engine that creates opportunities for the city and provides an opportunity for a well-balanced community so that we are not just a bedroom community. We have business and industry that provides opportunities for other services within our community, whether that is parks programs, neighborhood assistance. It kind of runs the gamut of city services, but it all starts with being able to fund those services, and we do that through our economic prosperity component. Here you'll see kind of I keep referring to them as snippets of each goal. So basically just a tagline as to the main point of each goal that we're referencing within the theme itself. So as you can see, one of the focal points, robust, sustainable economy. Well, that's a very general term, but it's kind of like when you go to the eye doctor. 1, blurry. 2, we're getting more refined. So as we progress through the goals and policies, you'll see refinement. And once we get to the policies, that starts to form the implementation plan. So you get a clearer picture of what that's intended to focus on. Again, it covers quite a range of topics, really focusing on how we implement effective economic development and economic prosperity goals throughout the city. With economic prosperity in particular, we are looking for feedback from you. One of the things that you'll see as we progress into the other chapters is we've structured them into somewhat of subcategories that allow for easier understanding of how certain sets of policies work together. So in the case of economic prosperity, there's quite a range, and we wanted to get some feedback from you guys as far as what you felt those goals in particular fit into, so that we could have a better formation or better structure for the theme or section. So when you're reviewing the goals and policies, just keep that in mind as to what would be the best structure and kind of definitive character of certain sets of goals, and what might be an appropriate naming convention for that. Some possible suggestions that we had up there were economic position, workforce development, and business attraction and expansion. Obviously, we're not married to any of those, so we'd like to see if perhaps there's an opportunity to have a more pointed or focused topic area for certain sets of goals, and we wanted to hear that from you guys. Additionally, again, the policies being a more focused approach and defining the characteristics of each goal, we would like to hear from you on policies EP1 through EP23 so that we know, are we addressing everything that we want to capture? We want to make sure that each of these policies, whether it's addressing one goal or hopefully multiple, because I think you'll find as you're going through them, there's quite a bit of crossover, which isn't a bad thing. That means that we have a robust document that relates well to the city if there is a lot of crossover. So if you do have any direct feedback at this point in regards to those policies, I'd love to hear that now. Otherwise, as Lori mentioned, we'd like to hear any feedback from you after this as well.
I guess I do have a statement and a question. First, Peoria is very lucky to have the talent they have. Looking through this document, it blew me away, the amount of information that's in here and what you guys have put together. To your point, though, on possible subsection titles, if we're looking at 1 through 23, couldn't those just fit into the goal titles?
Chairman, Commissioner Otluski, that's correct. So a lot of the policies do point to certain goals, and they can kind of range in between goals, but the subsections that I'm referencing are particularly for the goals themselves. So we're looking to section off the goals so that they can kind of fit together in more of a working format.
Okay. Yeah, there's so much information in here, it's amazing.
Yeah. But I didn't want to grill you or put you under the impression that you have to answer them all now, so.
Thanks.
And just to reiterate, there's a lot of information we're sharing with you tonight, and to the extent you have feedback you can offer us tonight, we certainly appreciate that. We understand it's overwhelming. There's just a lot of information there. We are going to have as the 60-day review, as Lori indicated, that there's an opportunity to provide comments. We're also willing and able to come back to the commission to continue this conversation and beyond that review as well, so.
So I had an interesting conversation. I'm a member of the Maricopa Workforce Connections Board, and I had an interesting conversation with the Peoria representative for workforce and the coordination between the county board. And I know for EP8, we're talking about coordinating with education providers and skill and business training resource providers. So I think there's a natural fit right there to you know, and I know you guys have heard me say a lot of times at the dais when we have the development team of some project come to us. I really want to see more of that activity, and I know you got to watch out using, you know, bad words like stipulations, but having the resources utilized here and encouraging between our CTE programs in our school district and the Maricopa Workforce Board resources to be able to have something put in place and set up going forward in cooperation with all three entities, to have something so when we do get those developers coming to us and I say to them, let's see Peoria residents being utilized on Peoria construction projects, especially when Peoria has, you know, some leverage over some municipal projects type of work with, you know, water treatment and roads and other infrastructure. But you know, regarding that EPA, that would be my feedback. It's let's widen the the goals, and let's bring in some of the other partners like the County Workforce Board. I know they're very good about sharing FTEs and costs for employment and, costs to run like an employment type of office too, so.
Certainly, Chairman, Commissioner Hutchinson, one of the things that we had looked at with the policies was trying to maintain, this is going to sound contradictory, but flexibility yet stringent focus. So we're trying to provide an opportunity that we can identify implementation steps that allow us to work with the community to ensure that we have an educated workforce that fits with the jobs that are within our community, but also ready for the jobs of the future, hopefully. And one of those components about the flexibility that I referenced is not necessarily tying us to a specific agency or entity for that coordination. That way it leaves the door open and opportunity open for us that we can perhaps bring together multiple partners in a possible workforce training program that would be implemented through various components of either the city or those agencies.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and I know I say that to a lot of development teams, and a lot of them leave here scratching their head, well, how do I do that? And it'd be nice to have, because it exists countywide, but a few municipalities have come on board and partnering with the Maricopa Board to share resources and create those job centers or training centers that a local development team could draw upon, with their contractors to make sure that, again, to see Peoria residents work in those jobs. That's really.
And if I may, Commissioner Hutchinson, to your point, so it kind of goes back into the relationship graphic as well. So the policy is kind of set in particular, and we don't call out a particular agency. So as Cody mentions, we're providing flexibility in that regard. Our ED department at that point in time uses what would be the EDIS-2 and any strategy documents that they would put together then to go out with WestMec, with, they've created public services and other folks, the Chamber of Commerce and everything. So the policy is set up in a general framework to do just what you're asking so that our ED department can then tailor services and programs and relationships based on our priorities, but they're not kind of tied down, if you will, to a specific group.
Right. There's also labor organizations and apprenticeship programs too that can provide the resources too and be able to pinpoint, a particular project in a particular zip code and, make sure that those opportunities are seen by the community.
Thank you. Is there any other feedback that any commission members would like to share at this time?
Yeah, I had a couple comments. I don't know if this is the right time, but I noticed in number 2, we're talking about a progressive development environment. And this has been on my mind since I've been on the commission. And to me, perceptions are reality. I've been out of the home building and real estate development business for a couple of years now, but when home builders and developers underwrite properties in Peoria, they automatically underwrite it to a longer development schedule and a more expensive budget than they do in neighboring municipalities. And it's because they perceive Peoria as being more expensive and more difficult to go through entitlements. I see some policies here that address that. And maybe we're not going to be discussing specifically how we're going to, I certainly want to maintain the quality of development that I've seen come in recently, but make it easier so we're not losing out to municipalities that are adjacent to us, which I know builders are like, well, I could get done 6 months sooner in Surprise. That's something I'm going to be very interested in as we go in through this process. And maybe we've made significant headway in the last 2 years. But that is a concern that I've had for quite a while and will certainly be bringing up again and again as we go through this.
Chairman, Commissioner Alsop, thank you for that comment. That is something that we would like to hear if you do have that sort of feedback so that we can make sure that our goals and policies do address that. That way, moving forward, whatever steps we can take to implement a strategy that gets us from point A to point B will allow us to perhaps change any concerns or issues that have arisen in the past.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm up next. Smart growth. Smart growth is pretty much an industry term, kind of a buzzword, if you will, and it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So in what it means in relation to Peoria, as I'm sitting next to the team captain for livability here, let's see if I can kind of capture a couple of things. We're looking for strategic and sustainable land uses. We're looking for quality housing options throughout the community. We're looking for incorporation of our cultural and our natural heritage within our community as well. And lastly, we want to start maintaining and enhancing and creating a strong sense of place throughout the community, destination spots, if you will. So each resident and visitor and business employee has some place to go that is unique to them within Peoria so that they can enjoy. So as we move forward into this particular chapter, you can see it kind of reiterated within the purpose statement here. But I'd like to kind of focus in on the second sentence, if you will. So growth should be at a desired scale and character that is consistent with the social, economic, and aesthetic values of the city. That to me kind of speaks to some of the comments that we've heard from the commission through the various development projects that we have talked about and brought before you. Is the project meeting the character of the community? We talk about, is it providing an appropriate transition from one to the other? What does that particular development project bring to the table that will enhance Peoria now and in the future? So moving forward, this one actually has quite a few elements in it, and it touches on a number of aspects across the board. This is one that has a lot of departments kind of keying in on. It's not just planning with the balanced land uses, focused growth, and sustainable development. We're looking at complete neighborhoods that incorporates our neighborhood services folks as well with housing options, preserving of housing stock, the placemaking element. So that also ties back in down the road to the arts and culture kind of aspect theme down the road. Community by design, looking at our design standards to create community. Streetscapes for people, connected corridors, the walkability element. That's also tied to the healthy neighborhoods theme, if you will. So that's where you start seeing the connection between multiple themes here. And one of the things that resonated with our residents and with our community members that they're very proud of is Peoria is fiscally sustainable. And they wanted to ensure that that message was heard and carried forward within the general plan. And so that in particular is a goal within here. And always we want to be respectful of cost of development. So looking at your packet, is there anything from goals 1 through 12 that you would like to share with us?
I'm sort of concerned, well, I am concerned about urban sprawl. And I have to say that when I go up to the Lake Pleasant area, that's what I'm reminded of. I find it difficult to navigate in that area, in the shopping areas, and it's not user-friendly, to be perfectly honest. And I get out of there as soon as I can. I go up there to look for certain stores, but they're the same stores I see every place, and the housing is surrounding it is, very much, well, to the south, there are the larger ranch homes from the south and east of the past, and then we see many subdivisions. But I don't see, when we talk about having a specific character, I don't see any character of Peoria there. I just don't. It doesn't look any different than characters in other big areas. When I go to a couple of areas in Scottsdale, like Kierland Commons, I see a mixture of shops and housing and other things, and it becomes very walkable, that area. It's sometimes difficult to park, but they seem to have more of a, and that's, one, and they have done a lot of really good things with downtown Scottsdale, the old Scottsdale, to increase it so it has a flavor. Not the flavor that it did 30 years ago, but it still has a flavor. We have Old Town, which needs to have a flavor built up, and I know everybody is working hard on that to make it someplace that's attractive. But when we start looking at, we have these big urban, shopping areas. It could be also a mall, but we have a big urban shopping area, and then subdivision growth around it. And there isn't really, and I must admit, I come from the East Coast, I'm Chicago, Portland, Seattle, those areas, a lot of those cities have a sense of community and a downtown area that's walkable, that you feel, has some sort of identity and flavor. And I think we're missing something there, and I don't know what. What I do know is that the people that are coming after me, the millennials, they're looking, they don't drive cars as much. They like to be able to walk and have Ubers pick them up and take them places. They like to be able to leave their apartments or leave their houses and go down and have a cup of coffee and sit and chat. They have smaller homes because they have congregational areas where they can shop. And from what I've heard in other talks from other places, it's even going back to the really old-fashioned 19th century stores on the first floor, living areas on the second and third stories. For that for the old-fashioned town, they're doing more of that. I know they're doing more of that in Phoenix, and I think it is you've done a fabulous job, but it's incredibly difficult to look at what's going to be attractive in the future for people as they often work from their home and then want to congregate. They don't, whereas before, they congregated in their office spaces and then went home to peace and quiet. Now it's almost the flip. They work all day in their home doing whatever they're doing because they work on their computer, and then they want to go out someplace to meet friends at night. So it's almost like the reverse. And I would like to see something that looks toward that. As far as education, I think that having schools that, not everybody needs a college education. Technical schools would be great to draw because, a friend of mine who's extremely wealthy was in Burger King, and everybody used to mock him 30, 40 years ago, "Oh, you're in fast food, I don't eat fast food, right?" Well, let me tell you, he says, "Joe, I'm in low tech." And there's always jobs in low tech. There's always jobs for plumbers, for electricians, for air conditioning people, for people that do those jobs, and they get paid extremely well. He was in food. He said people always have to eat. And so that's how he grew his business. And I'd like to see education have some focus on technical, not just bringing in high-end schools, universities, but a mix, because we do need technical, and they're simply not enough around that I see. But I would like to see some sort of idea of a flavor, of feeling like you find your home, and that you can go out in the evening to a safe area, that it's safety is what brings people out at night, and, people, I can name lots of places down in Phoenix, Biltmore Fashion Park. That was one that people would go to with surrounding areas, and that I can think of really right off the top of my head. Kierland Commons is another in Scottsdale. I haven't visited Glendale that much, but those areas I'd like to see more of.
Yep. If I may, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Commissioner Condi, Very good comments, very much taken to heart. In fact, I think when you look through the policies, that's absolutely an emphasis of the city. One of the products that will come out in the 60-day review is the land use element. I think we spent some time at the last commission meeting about the new land use categories. And I think when you see the land use map, you're going to see a much larger reliance on mixed-use development throughout the city. And so what I mean by that is, whereas in the past there might have been kind of that, we call it Euclidean standpoint, where you might have commercial separated from residential and multifamily and so forth, we're looking at opportunities in core areas where we can mix jobs, services, and housing in close proximity. So you're going to see that threaded throughout the community, hopefully to position older properties, but in the newer areas provide more and more of those lifestyle options. I think when you look through the policies, you're going to see a huge emphasis, and this is a huge emphasis with the council, on sense of place and experiential developments and things like that, gathering areas, placemaking. That's going to be a big emphasis in our general plan. All those things are very important going forward, no doubt.
Okay.
And Lori, if I heard you right, I mean, because I do see that, like gathering spaces, it's a lot of those 12 kind of overlap, but that was purposely done to separate or expand upon a thought then. Okay. Because it seems like 12, it seemed like a big number, I guess, when I'm thinking about it, but.
And Chairman, Commissioner Orlowski, so these are the 12. We are always open. If there is the ability to combine and still make it meaningful, please let us know. So 12 may be the right number, 12 may not be the right number. So if we can effectively communicate to our audience, then we've achieved our result.
I appreciated Commissioner Condi's comment. I'm a big fan of the village concept. In fact, Litchfield Park was it was an early example of that. Anything we can do around that, I think that's exciting. And I love seeing that spelled out as a goal. That tells me it's on our mind. We're conscientious of that when we approach planning and land use planning, so appreciate that. I was kind of curious, what stuck out at me is when we're talking about smart growth and sustainability, we don't use the word climate change. We don't mention that at all. It seems to me that that should be in our list of goals, that we are going to take steps to address that we're going to take steps to reduce things that contribute to climate change. And I mean, it's it's pretty well accepted by the scientific community. This is a real thing. I don't think it's some may argue it, but they're on the fringes. I'm curious why we don't include that language. Is it inappropriate for a document like this? Because I think we need to be adding that to our vernacular and having that kind of more in the front of our minds as we approach land use planning.
Mr. Chairman, that's an excellent question. In talking with our sustainability coordinator, if you will, that was brought up in how we talk about climate change. And to do it within the general plan, we threaded it through in a different manner than what you may be thinking. So we talk about it from the state sustainability practice in our design guidelines. We talk about it through our hardscape and shade efforts that we're doing. We are setting the framework, if you will, to look at our design standards and incorporate the specifics within those type of documents. So it is talked about, but it's talked about in a number of different ways and a number of different elements depending on the nature of where we're at within the document. And Chris?
Yeah, and I think another example of how they're all kind of fit together. So in becoming not only a fiscally but a sustainable city, another way to do that is to try to have jobs, base jobs within the community, that we're continually trying to direct those so that people aren't having to drive large distances outside the community so that you can live and work in the city that you're at. So that's a big part of it. I think the reliance on mixed use also, if we can get more of those opportunities, will reduce the incidence of people having to drive distances to go to shopping and then drive somewhere else to a store. Maybe have a greater reliance on the ability to walk or bike. So that we think that's a big part of sustainability as well, land use sustainability.
You're correct. We feel we are tackling that. We didn't feel it necessary to include that language in the goals per se, right?
Chairman
So
Nelson.
make sure I understand. I mean, I'm fine with that, but it's.
Certainly. So as Chris and Lori both referenced, we kind of touch on it in various aspects. For instance, in the theme of smart growth, you have sustainable development because it's more growth-related. As you'll see when we get to it in healthy neighborhoods, we have a goal focused on sustainability and decision-making. So identifying what we can change as a city as far as our practices to make sure that we're leaving a better mark for the future in a sustainable and viable manner.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may add one last item, you will see it kind of specifically addressed, but in a different manner within the Superior Public Services. So when we create new public facilities, it does have lead requirements in that regard. And so we for sure talk about it, but in a different setting with execution for lead standards for our municipal buildings. So it is kind of interwoven throughout the document.
Okay. And just a second question, and I apologize, it may very well be in here, I'm still going through the document, but do we address water use in here? I would assume we do, but it just,
Mr. Chairman, we do kind of in-depth when,
Okay.
if we make it to the last chapter, I'll be more than happy to
that
cover
what it
water,
is? All right.
wastewater.
I apologize.
That would be
I'm
in
a little-
Superior Public Services when we get into it.
oh, that's in there, okay,
Yes.
perfect, thank you.
I had a couple comments.
Yeah, Clay?
I had several comments on goal 6. Can you elaborate, how is the city going to take a role in improving the quality of existing housing? Are we talking about like the Peoria Pride Program, things like that, or?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Alsop, that is dead on right there. So
Okay.
that is the Neighborhood Pride Program. We also have various programs to help homeowners who may be in need at the time, that they could take advantage if they have emergency repairs that need to happen. So we have various programs and services in place in that regard. We also have a tool lending program, so there's various aspects in that. We also, when we talk about, Chris, I'm trying to think of some of the other
There's
items.
Community Works, where we reserve every budget year a set aside amount of money for local projects that benefit neighborhoods and trying to retain the viability of those neighborhoods. There's a number of projects, and I can tell you that there's a continued emphasis and discussion on how we can, because it's important, we can't just look to the north and to the growing areas, we have to maintain the mature areas of Peoria as well.
Okay. And I love Peoria Pride. I think that's a wonderful thing. I've participated in it several times. I was just wondering if that's what you were referencing. Number 9, streetscapes for people. A couple of comments, I think, allude to this indirectly. My observation, and I'm sure all the planners here remember this when you're in planning school, we're talking about a walkable community. I live in West Wing, and I love West Wing. But the right-of-way widths are enormous in West Wing. It is not a good example of walkable because you got to cross a freeway to get to the other side. Is there anything being considered in reducing right-of-way widths within residential communities? Because I think that does a lot to create a more community feel, and these enormous right-of-ways also contribute significantly to heat island effect. And that was just, and maybe it's addressed later, but a lot of times I always hear the fire department get upset if I say reducing right-of-way widths. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in that. And when I think of my favorite communities, they're communities that have smaller right-of-way widths, less curb and gutter, which I know is an issue for drainage. But sometimes I feel like engineering drives the design of cities more than it ought to. Because everything we're talking about here, and this is the role, this is a planning zoning commission. It's not an engineering commission, but I would love to see any type of options for reducing right-of-way widths in developments. And lastly, number 12, can you elaborate on that? Are we talking about capital projects for, like the Lake Pleasant Parkway project where the city built it all out in anticipation of future development? Is that what we're talking about?
Commissioner Alsop, so cost of development can be considered in a couple of different things. The city has the impact fee program for setting aside money to assist with road development. Cost of development can be looked at from a growth perspective. We've already spent dollars for existing infrastructure, And so how do we capitalize on and direct growth to take advantage of some of the infrastructure that we may already have in place? For example, the cost of development, if it's an infill piece, we already have trash trucks available, we already have staffing, there could be parks adjacent nearby, we wouldn't have to build any of that, no new roads. If you go into the vacant area, the cost of development may increase. We may have to build new roads, we may have to look at additional vehicles to service them, facilities all the way through. And so cost of development is kind of a twofold part. From a growth standpoint, from a smart growth standpoint, it's one thing. From a dollars and cents on the municipal operations standpoint, we look at it from that aspect as well.
On the impact fees, I believe we recently went through an impact fee rescheduling. What was the result of that? Do we know yet?
The impact fees were just presented at the last council meeting. It was a public hearing on them. And so I'm trying to, I can't recall off the top of my head which categories went up and down, and it all depends on what area of town they're in, but we can get you those recommendations.
Yeah, I know generally the last round was good. I heard several good comments from developers that Peoria had favorable impact fees relative to other cities. Thank you.
I think another aspect of fiscal sustainable development, and probably within the cost development, is you're going to see discussion and an emphasis on more organic development, meaning promotion of development not only in infill areas, but areas that is readily or nearly served by infrastructure in the near future, and less reliance or less promotion of developments that are quite a bit from where existing infrastructure is. So we're going to be looking at a tiered growth model as we look at growth in the future to try to promote growth where infrastructure is or will be soon.
Oh, Brian.
Yeah, I just had a comment on 9 and 10. Both of those are pretty extensively covered in the transportation element. And to me, water is pretty deserving of being in smart growth. And if we're making the argument that water's covered somewhere else, I would make the argument that transportation's covered somewhere else. And I would either take those two out of this element or bring something on water in.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Patterson, that is a great question. And so if I may kind of direct us a little bit forward into the policies section. We do specifically talk about that within the balanced land uses. If you would look to, let me just, LUC number 8. Use the principles of smart water management to inform and shape the land use patterns within the community. So in this instance, we opted not to have a duplicate goal in this section. However, within the policies, we opted to talk about the concept of smart water management as we're talking about land uses. And so the actual goals are more listed within the Superior Public Services, but you'll see that kind of element throughout in the policy section in here to address that concern.
So why do you need transportation in the goals for this one?
It's a good question. So Commissioner Patterson, we're looking at sound water management with regard to shaping of land uses in this particular kind of elements, this particular area. In the Superior Public Services, we get more in-depth on the practice of management, and we kind of drill down a little farther within that section in between. So if you will, this is kind of a cross-reference to the policies in the structure, looking at it from a land use perspective, that water is a definite concern as we grow smarter in the future. So we're acknowledging it here, but it's also talked about further down when we need to bring water to the table to actually service the development.
All right. Any other questions?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commission, so these on the screen in front of you balanced land uses, did we have any specific comments within this particular subsection? If not, I will transition into anything within complete neighborhoods. All right, so I'll close out this particular chapter, and as the commissioner continues to read through the policies, if there's any comments or suggestions, please let us know. And we'll move to the next chapter, if you will.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of commission. It's been a while. I changed Chris's and changed my desk. However, I still maintain my planner background and planner title as your transportation planner. Now, similar to the very long version of the purpose statement, the second paragraph really addresses the key meat of what we're trying to do, is that transportation should be considered for all modes of travel and be universally accessible. What we're seeing as an industry, as we continue to move forward with technology, is the idea of driving yourself alone in your car that you own is of the past. You know, we're seeing lots new ways of getting around, and certainly, as Commissioner Condi alluded to regarding Uber, it's very popular. We're seeing the scooters come back again through new state legislation that passed. So there's a myriad of options available to you. My goals are 9 in number, but really they can be summarized into a number of key objectives. Firstly, to realize that all modes of travel are important. That's more so than just your car. It's Pogo, it's the fixed route on Valley Metro, it's the cyclist, it's the hoverboards and walking. You know, that seems to be like walking is going of the way of the past also, and I'm not sure why. I certainly prefer walking over getting in a car if I can, similar to Commissioner Alsop in West Wing. Certainly there are communities that is still a focus and should be a continued focus. Secondly, regarding the goals, the system relies on regional coordination. Maybe more so than any other chapter tonight, Peoria cannot act in a vacuum for how people get around. Certainly, sidewalks don't stop at city limits, roads don't stop at city limits, everything works together. Fortunately, we have a great working relationship with our neighboring jurisdictions, with ADOT, with MCDOT. I don't think there's ever been a better time in the city's history where coordinating efforts are realized and occurring. Third, on the goals, there needs to be an emphasis on preservation and a celebration of not only the on-street network, but the off-street network, ensuring that it's used to its full capacity. Peoria has a very robust system of shared use paths in our rivers and trails network. I actually added it up today before we came in tonight, and essentially you can go from various places in Peoria to Tempe Town Lake, and I think you cross traffic 3 times in the entire stretch of it. So similar to our last chapter, I wanted to pause here to take a quick look at the goals. The goals really break down into 4 subsections, which further define in the purposes in the following slide, but let's take a quick exhale here and hear what you have to say.
I had a couple comments.
Commissioner Patterson?
Talking about regional coordination, I agree that's a very important thing for Peoria to be an active player in. Just the way it's worded, the language, the text that describes it, it seems like it's focused on trails and parks and natural areas. And I know it says transportation in there, which implies everything, but to me, the way it's worded, it zeroes in on the trails. And I think it would be better to broaden that out.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Patterson, thank you for the feedback. We will address that.
And the other comment was, there's not a goal specifically on safety. And we've got a real black mark, I think, in the Phoenix area, especially on pedestrian safety. And to me, that's worthy of a goal, is to improve safety.
Certainly, Commissioner Patterson. Number 5 somewhat ventures into that category, but we can certainly expand and emphasize that as well, yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners or questions?
You'll have to forgive me,
Commissioner Alsop?
my wife put me up to asking you guys a specific question. Now, I was in a meeting yesterday where we were discussing extending Jomax all the way through to, I don't know what you call it at that point. I don't know if it's Vistancia or if it's Happy Valley. Are there, currently, you guys are building a water line that connects all the way from essentially the West Wing Parkway all the way through to 303. Is that eventually going to be a connection, a public road?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Alsop, yes. It would be considered Lone Mountain Parkway from the TI, the traffic interchange at Loop 303, and it would follow the general idea of where the water line is being placed. That is not in our horizon at this time. That's a minimum of 10 years out. There are a number of very severe terrain challenges that affect any sort of development in that area.
Okay, thank you. So that will not be included in this general plan, it sounds like.
Certainly it shows on the circulation map as far as future routes. We
Yeah.
do have a designation for an arterial roadway on that alignment, yes. And to mention about Jomax previous, the interchange with the 303, there is Jomax Road being constructed from there to Vistancia Boulevard to have a different way in and out of that community and not rely as heavily on Happy Valley Road. And Jomax has future plans to extend to the west as indicated on the circulation map as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Doesn't look like there's any other questions, so continue.
Thank you. We will move forward to a policy discussion. They break down into 4 sections: the on-street network, our transit network, active transportation, which is, think of it as human-powered, trying to get out of the Wall-E hover chairs and actually use your feet if possible, and cycling and hiking, and then mobility as a service, which really touches on emerging technologies. Kevin Burke, the Public Works Director, recently gave a presentation at Council about the future of mobility and the autonomous car and how this factors into our future planning efforts. I'm very privy to his conversation, so I can certainly answer those questions for you as well. Well, perfect.
I tried to pass it off, but it's me. Healthy neighborhoods, what does this mean? We're not going to make everybody go to the gym. What we're looking for is to provide opportunities within our community that they are healthy, they are vibrant. Folks have the ability to choose from various options within their community, whether that is a trail system within their community that also touches on transportation. It digs in a little bit to smart growth, but it provides for the vitality of the community, having folks out, active, social within their respective neighborhoods and the city as a whole. As you can see here, elevating the vitality of people by promoting health and wellness in the built environment. And that's really the focus of what we're trying to do with the goals within the Healthy Neighborhoods theme. Here we have quite a bit more goals than economic prosperity. As you can see, I think a couple that would give you a sense of the direction that the theme or chapter is trying to go is the active lifestyle choices, socially connected neighborhoods, parks, open space, and recreation. It really kind of gets to what you want to do within your community and how you want to experience your city. So giving you a sense of place, not to use a cliche, but placemaking efforts within the city that provide opportunities for enjoyment beyond just going home from work every day and sitting inside your house. If there are any comments in regards to the goals in particular, I can certainly take a pause and we can go over those.
Commissioner Patterson?
Yeah, just, my first reaction on number 3 was, I thought that seemed like an odd goal. I'm not sure what healthy foods are and how you would implement that.
Chairman, Commissioner Patterson, it does seem odd, especially since, planning is always trying to convey the message that we can't actually pick the end user. We can just designate the use. So how do we provide opportunities for healthy food options for our residents? Well, really it's through identifying how do they get to their food source? How far away from their food source are they? Is there enough land use designations for opportunities for things like grocery stores? So you don't have to walk 3 miles to get to a grocery store. You have one within an appropriate distance so that you're not in a quote-unquote food desert. Providing that capability to the residents to have easy access to foods that hopefully provide them an opportunity to engage in a healthier lifestyle.
And if I may also chime in, you wouldn't think about it, but in disguise, we're also talking about farmers markets, community gardens, and things of that nature that both bring the community together, but also have access to healthy foods in that regard as well.
I'm probably going way out on a limb here. One of the, as you know, I'm an appraiser and I see lots of different communities. One of the best planned communities I've seen is Sun City. I know that sounds very strange, but let me tell you why I think it does, and it fits into so many of your goals. And it has endured incredibly well when you consider that the houses are typically look very well maintained, there's engagement. One of the interesting things that I think when Del Webb planned it, and he didn't plan it it wasn't planned in any of the other senior communities, is that there was a grocery store originally within a mile of every house. There was a recreation center within a mile of every house. There were banks and other financial facilities within a mile. There were all sorts of services within a mile of every house. And then the Boswell Hospital was put on a hill right in the center so that everybody could see it and get to it. And that was why it's on a hill, so that people would know where to go because of that. As far as a variety of housing, I don't think you could find a planned community with a larger variety of housing, from simple 1-bedroom, 1-bath attached housing apartments to houses that could be 2,500, 3,000 square foot field, and golf courses with large lots. And they were somehow incorporated into a mix. In other words, unlike Litchfield Park, which was planned, and it started with lower-end houses at the south end, going to the large homes along Bird Lane at the north, Sun City integrated everything really well. And there are pockets of high density, if you would call it, attached homes, and then, neighborhoods would now be considered like subdivision homes. And it has survived well. And as for transportation, not only are there bike clubs, but they have golf carts that can be used. So it has that identity. And there are a lot of things to be learned about sustainability by looking at Sun City and how well it has maintained itself. And then it's still attractive to younger people retiring there, because that's, of course, a retirement community, because of the accessibility, the affordability of housing with a lot of different varieties, the ability for people to come and be snowbirds there economically. All of the rec centers, there's so many golf courses, but their rec centers have all sorts of activities which people can get involved in. There are political activities with the Sun City Homeowners Association and with the rec boards. And it hits, as I'm reading through this, I'm thinking, wow, you know, that was planned in 1960, which is nearly 70 years ago, 60 years ago. I can't add 40 and 20, 60. And it is still going very strong. And it really does work. And it can be done. And it can be done without losing the context of the overall neighborhood. And I just thought I would throw that out. I'm sure it's going to be jumped on for that when I leave. But I just think it's, as I look at all of the other communities out there, it has 9 square miles, and everybody says, well, what are the good neighborhoods? They're all the same. They're all good. That's incredible when you think of 9 square miles where you have houses maintained and a whole lot of, you know, it's just really incredible.
Chairman, Commissioner Condi, thank you for that comment. I think some of what you're perhaps referencing as far as the integration of activity and connectedness has to do with kind of some of the radial patterns that you see within Sun City and the ability to almost have a continuum walk or open space, if you will. So that is something that we're looking to incorporate, that having that balance and that connectivity throughout the neighborhoods. And then I believe you referenced the placement of the grocery stores. So that kind of ties into both the access to healthy foods, but also back to smart growth when Lori had referenced the balanced land uses.
What I meant to say was that all of your goals are just exactly what's met in, I mean, it's just, I read this through and I wait a second, it fits.
Good.
It can be done. One after another, it can be done. They do have a farmer's market, they have socially connected, they have civic engagement, they have a variety of housing, they have support services all over Sun City. They have environmental open space, so they have parks, they have dog parks, they have other parks, they have open spaces, they have recreation programs. They have all of these things that you've outlined as goals. And so it can be done. And it's just that many cities grew like Topsy. They just kind of just grew. And so I'm really applauding you for doing this because I've seen it. I've seen how it works, and I've seen how it can sustain a community and keep it viable and healthy many years after it started.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner Condi. That's our hope and our focus with this general plan is to create something that's viable and long-term for the community. So thank you.
Cody, just an observation. I was curious, it was captured in the policies section, CW5 specifically, and a little bit in NP10. But I'm curious why we didn't list as a goal improving access to quality health care for residents, whether that's, whether that's attracting healthcare facilities like clinics and long-term care centers and behavioral hospitals, to attracting more physicians to set up shop in the city. It's not a goal. I felt it needed to be a goal versus a policy. And I don't know if that was intentional, if maybe there was some thinking behind that I missed, and maybe you can help me understand that.
Chairman Nelson, I think what we were attempting to do is just have a more pointed focus on that in particular. And that was perhaps the reason behind making it a policy rather than more of an overarching goal that would have a broader reach.
And maybe I can add too, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. So going back to the economic prosperity element, there is a goal for industry targets. And I can tell you that through economic development. They also have an investment strategy, but they have targeted industries that they're trying to identify and bring to Peoria. And that includes, healthcare is one of those targeted industries that they're trying to bring so that our citizens have access to it. So it is kind of, it is identified in the economic prosperity element.
That's more, that's a capture in there, okay. And when we talk about CW5, improving access to comprehensive and quality healthcare, is that speaking to transportation when you say access? Am I taking that too literally, or is that getting to the attracting these medical facilities to the city?
Chairman Nelson, both.
Okay.
Really, what we're trying not to evaluate anything within a vacuum. So it doesn't really do us any good to have healthcare facilities that no one can get to, but it also doesn't do us any good to have roadway networks that lead to nothing. So having the ability to integrate each aspect of the needs of our citizens is kind of the focus and why you see so much interrelatedness between the chapters.
Okay, I still would love to see it as a goal, but that's just my feedback, and I may be the only one. But I think we need to be very, a little more overt on that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, Cody, I was looking at number 7, the goal, the supportive services, and it kind of touches on it, training, wellness programs designed to improve health. If number 7 was rewritten a little bit to incorporate a little of the language of health, that might cover what you were just talking about. It comes really close.
Okay.
It just seems to miss the mark just a tad.
Well, wellness is a preventative health. We're talking about, this is kind of after, when something happens is what that's kind of my thought is. I see where you're going with that,
Yeah,
but
I was just trying to
wellness is more
incorporate it
about
into
keeping people healthy. That my thought was, what do you do when their health is not good? Yeah.
And Chairman, Commissioner Otluski, it can be both. We don't have to, only acute care in one location. It can be a range, whether it's an optometrist or an acute care hospital. We can fashion it in a way that really supports access to both of those.
Sounds good.
Chairman.
Oh, Commissioner Alsop, sorry.
On the topic of wellness, and we were just talking about transportation, it reminded me of something I wanted to ask earlier about is it called the POGO? Is that what we're calling it? I'm curious how that's going, and I wanted to share a personal experience why I was interested in that. So for a long story short, I have to see a pulmonologist regularly, and I always tell my wife when I'm in the waiting room, I'm the youngest person there by decades. And I watch these people come in, and a lot of times they come in from a taxi or some government-sponsored transportation. And it makes me sad that that's a struggle for them to have to take a cab to the doctor's office, and I wish they had kids around to help them. But I'm curious with this POGO, if that is being utilized, for people trying to access healthcare. And I'm just generally curious, who are the users of that? I certainly support that program, and I think it could be utilized well for people who need access to healthcare.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Alsop, so far, POGO launched on April 22nd of this year and has been well beyond expectations so far. We're having users from, I think they're still called tweens. I'm not sure if it's still a proper term in 2019, but just around end of elementary school, beginning of high school, to riders that go on every day at the very first ride to go over to Arrowhead Town Center to do the Silver Sneakers program. We are seeing the entire range. I try to take it at least 3 days a week to get on Route 83 around P83 and make a transfer, because it is a free service. We hit 500 riders within 3 weeks. It goes to the 2 Peoria high schools and 3 of our charter schools. And the times are set in order for our high schoolers when they return in August to arrive before school starts. And it goes by the school again about 10 minutes after. We've had numerous people asking for extensions to the route. It's 18 miles already, and we are desperately trying to keep our every half-hour schedule. And to your point about the healthcare, one of the things early on in the planning stage I really pushed for is, it was originally intended to be more of a lasso shape up and down 83rd Avenue, and then do the Lake Pleasant and Happy Valley loop. Knowing the amount of healthcare services on 91st Avenue, just a mile west, in order to create a better circulator was certainly a draw. And to your point about the governmental options as well, yes, we do have the dial ride service and the regional paratransit service that is designed for that specifically.
Oh, great, I'm happy to hear that. I mean, if there's any opportunity for expansion, I'd be excited to see that.
Was that 500 unique riders, or are those mostly repeat riders, or?
I see a few people every day that are normal riders, but we are
That's
getting,
incredible numbers.
it's been incredible, yes.
All right. Any other questions?
All right. As you can see here, I had kind of referenced it in economic prosperity, but again, we're breaking it into subcategories. So if there are any comments or questions on any of the policies within the various subcategories for healthy neighborhoods, I'd love to hear your feedback, or again, if you'd like to take the opportunity to comment later via the public website, we'd love to hear from you there as well.
Okay, thank you. Move on to arts, cultural, and recreational enrichment.
Not to sound too aspiring or like a bleeding heart, but I like to think of this as the chapter that ties many of the other chapters together. And if you have read through some of the goals and policies, you might see why. I think the two things in our purpose statement for arts, cultural, and recreational enrichment that we want to focus in on are enriching the quality of life for residents and visitors, and also contributing to economic vitality. So a lot of times funding gets cut, arts gets cut. We think of it as a luxury, but a lot of communities now have rediscovered, if you will, that arts and celebrating cultural heritage and providing recreational programming for community members is an economic driver, and it is also really important to our social health. I've heard several of you, as we talk about these themes, mention things like walkability, wanting to interact with people and not have to cross stroads to get to where you're going. Even when you are an introvert, we are inherently people. We want to interact with people. We want to be able to walk somewhere. But we need things that people want to walk to. So this theme really gets at the fact that it's not art for art's sake, it's really multidimensional for our community. The goals are pretty encompassing, I think. There's several of them. And the number one, the community strength through enrichment, I think kind of gets at the overarching theme of we see this as a way for our residents and visitors to interact with each other and express themselves, whether that's art programs for seniors or ESL programming that's in coordination with the library for new residents or immigrants, and also it's a placemaking opportunity, not to use that word too much. Think of the intersection paintings that we've been doing in Old Town, or, a really good sense of place that is unique to Peoria is the Blooming Spire at Happy Valley and Lake Pleasant. I mean, you know that you're in Peoria when you see that, and it hopefully becomes a sort of driver for that area. But so this theme tries to capture the idea that we are working with neighborhood services to get at different demographic groups within the community, different ability groups, and to celebrate both our history in preserving and reusing buildings, particularly in Old Town. We are definitely seeing more of an interest in the last couple of years, and I think that's going to grow, and so we are trying to encourage that and build that into the general plan moving forward. And it had been previously, but we're dusting it off and seeing ways that we can make it stronger. And then also cross-coordination. So libraries aren't just places where elementary students go to get stuff for book reports anymore. You go there now because they have seed libraries, right? Or they offer multi-generational programming. So we have an integrated recreational system, and it's, not surprisingly, it's really good for our economy. So do you all feel as if these goals encompass everything that we need them to? Is there anything we've forgotten?
Well, I'd make a comment, I guess, that I see more of this in Peoria than I do most cities that I travel through. I'm actually I'm not a bleeding heart, but I'm very proud that our city has the forethought of the art. I actually was here really early today, so I took a drive around Old Town just to see, what's happening, what's going on. And I noticed the intersections really caught my eye, and I just, fortunately, there's nobody around, so I was able to stop and look at it without blocking traffic. But I feel like these 12 really give us a pathway and really show off what Peoria wants to be in the future when it comes to art and culture.
Well, thank you, Chairman Commissioner Atlusky. That's nice to hear.
I have a comment, right?
Commissioner Alsop?
The number 9, I think our libraries are awesome. My daughter looks forward to going to the library every week, and the programs that they have there are fantastic. And I couldn't be happier that she's going to the libraries, and it's a lifesaver for my wife during the summer. For an integrated rec system, I think we do a very good job. Having said that, I grew up in Henderson, Nevada, and it is just an incredible Parks and Rec program they have there. I did my internship there when I was an undergrad, and I couldn't tell you what they're doing better, to tell you the truth, but it's better. It is a bigger city, but I know that they are regularly winning awards for their Parks and Rec program, and my friends that stayed there always go to the parks. They're having kids, and it's a really big deal in Henderson. And I couldn't tell you any more than the fact that everyone there loves it. And when I was there, that was a big part of our lives, was going to the parks. I think the park that is going in the north side of Peoria is definitely a step in the right direction. I'm very disappointed we weren't able to expand that through Prop 400. Let me know if we're ever going to do that again. But I think there's a lot to be learned from Henderson, Nevada. But I also think we are doing a good job.
Not so much a question, just a comment. I kind of skipping to the policies piece, but I appreciated AC 14 in particular, calling out the fact that we are looking to acknowledge and support local artists, and that we're celebrating all of the talent we have within our city and trying to give them exposure. So I appreciated that being included. That's just a comment.
Okay.
Do we have any other comments or questions about any of the goals? Okay. Move into policies.
So with the previous themes, they are broken into subcategories. We try and focus in on arts and culture, both promotion, celebration, and programming, and then historic preservation. So staff has worked with the Historic Preservation Commission to go over these policies. They met last night and gave some feedback that they felt they were pretty encompassing, but I think that there is always room for improvement. If anyone feels that there is something that needs to be added in, please let us know. Excuse me, and then working really closely with neighborhood services is where the education and library and then recreational enrichment comes in. Those were informed by recent trends in library services, public education, and parks and recreation programming. The idea that programming is, not surprisingly, very important to getting people to parks. I think of Pioneer Park as one of our example parks that maybe hopefully kind of lives up to what Henderson, Nevada might be like. You often see lots of family there on Fridays and Saturdays with food trucks, and then people having birthday parties at the Ramadas, and then there's people at the dog parks. It's just packed, so. But anything that you would like to add or, just reach out to us.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we have 5 minutes when we were talking about 8 o'clock, so I'm going to beg your indulgence and see if we can get through this one pretty quickly. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
8's a hard stop if you need to go over. We want to use as much time as you need.
All right.
Ice cream cones for us all after.
I will consider that as a request, as long as the attorney at the end does not feel that I am bribing the commission, so. Okay, so noted. All right, so Superior Public Services, the goal with this one, I must say, it is one of the heaviest chapters, if you will, with a number of topics included. We are a very customer service focused community, and that is reflective in the name choice of the chapter in itself. It's not adequate, it's superior public services. So you'll see that within kind of how we treat the goals as well. In particular, some of the key words within this purpose statement were reflected within the community comments that we received. Reliable, we heard, safe. We are also making it in delivering services in a compassionate manner. If you've ever seen some of the reports within the newspaper, our public works folks go above and beyond the call of service often. Our police and fire do as well. This chapter really does celebrate the heart of city staff coming to the table to deliver services day in and day out. So we feel that this is kind of, even though it's last, it is a very prominent chapter and close to our hearts. We have 13 goals within this one. May seem like a lot, but we're covering a lot of services. But first and foremost, we want to ensure that we're having superior facilities and services throughout the community. You'll see compassion and service in there. We also talk about our municipal operations, but we don't want to be stagnant with where we're at. We want to be leaders in innovation, and we want to incorporate technology into what we do on a daily basis. We're doing it good. Can we do it better? We're going to continue to improve where we can and be responsible for our taxpayer dollars that are generously given to us. We also talk about police, fire, and with that, we have one other thing that typically isn't necessarily provided in there. We normally, in a general plan, would not talk about like hazards or emergency management preparation, but yet that kind of speaks to what we talk about with our climate. We need to be adaptive if there's a storm. How do we prepare for that? And it is reflective also in our water, wastewater, and stormwater in particular management that we do, floodplain management, if you will. We don't want to leave the guys off on the waste trucks and the recycling, because if they didn't stop and pick up those cans, we sure get calls. So sometimes they'll even go back and return if somebody's missed. And so they go out of their way to make sure they deliver on our promises. Not to be outdone, we talk about utilities in this one. And last but not least, there's a little bit of sustainability in with air quality and energy. And then we also talk about telecommunications, because we all know that 5G is rolling out. And there are always improvements to technology, and one of the things that we look at is from the telecommunications standpoint. So I'm going to pause right there. Is there briefly, looking at the goals, is there anything that you would like to note for us in these 13?
Just a comment on the purpose, actually. I apologize if I'm nitpicking a little bit, but I like that we've devoted a section to leadership and innovation. I think this is a very forward-looking and innovative thinking city. I think that belongs in the purpose. Right in that first sentence, we're not only looking to provide it in a responsible, reliable, safe, compassionate, but innovative manner, or something to that effect. I think we need to insert that right in the first sentence, that we think outside the box, that we think, we leverage new technologies, whatever it might be. If there's a way to work that in there.
You can almost rework that second, starting with in order to sustain, you can almost rework that into that
Well,
sentence.
good thought. Yeah. So, that was it, but the goals look good to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Patterson?
One thing I was looking for in this area was citizen participation civic engagement. I noticed that civic engagement was covered in healthy neighborhoods. But to me, that's something that's pretty pervasive and needed in this area.
Thank you. We'll look to include that in here.
I have a comment.
Commissioner Alsop?
You're not going to be surprised, I have comments on energy resources. ER5. All new electric utility lines constructed part of new developments are required to be installed underground if 69 kV or less. I'm thinking that should be under 69 kV. Okay, that just about gave me a heart attack. Okay.
Correct. Thank you for that.
Distribution, absolutely. I'm on board with that 100%. But transmission lines would be a significant challenge for providing economical electricity to Peoria residents. And ER1, coordinate with energy providers and siting. Can you elaborate? Is there going to be more details on that coming out? That obviously has been a fairly large issue in the past, and APS is really interested in making sure we're doing our part to work with Peoria on that. I'm speaking as a planning commissioner right now. So, but what can you elaborate on that? We have more details on that, or are we just looking at that as a goal? Because I think it's a great goal, and I'd have a lot of input in another setting if we want to continue that discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Alsop, with regard to that, we wanted to recognize that we do have a collaborative relationship with the service providers, and we want to continue with that. We try to facilitate an open dialogue with where transmission lines are going to go, where substations are going to go, if it's connecting the dots with property owners, or if it's how does it best tie into facilities. Is there something, is there ability to shape and navigate and mitigate kind of impacts to the community. So it's recognizing that it's a collaborative discussion at that point, and we want to continue that and recognize it in the policy.
And just to add to that, Commissioner Alsop, a lot of this also has to do with the implementation and rollout of 5G on the city's streets. Something that unfortunately constantly seems to occur is development and engineering and public works will go out and do a complete new asphalt section of roadway. This just happened on 91st Avenue between Bell and Union Hills, and about 2 weeks later, the telecommunications came in and tore up all of this new roadway. So it's trying to reach out, certainly through siting as far as the big lines, the transmission corridors, as well as what may be perceived as the smaller ones. This is also tying into the city's shade initiative to see if some of these installations through telecommunications can serve a second purpose as far as providing shade.
Okay. In regards to siting, may I suggest the earlier the better, earlier than most of us would naturally think. Some of these things are put into play. I'm working on stuff 7 years in advance. So if we have any preferences, I think those discussions should be happening right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Alsop. We would look forward to working with you
Okay.
on this particular area.
Thank you. And on ER5, could we change the vocabulary possibly to distribution? Under 60, it just depends on how we're gonna look at that. Sometimes it might be just under 69 kV, and that may be getting into more of the engineering specs than you guys care about. But Chris does. Yeah, distribution would be, I think, more what you guys are looking at, lines that are serving residential communities and things like that, underground feeders.
Chair Nelson and Commissioner Alsop, I believe there's a city ordinance that says anything under 69 kV, so we're going to want to follow what the city ordinance states.
Okay.
We could look into that and verify.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Commissioner Patterson?
Yeah, going back to the goals, on number 7, on water, I didn't see the word conservation in there anywhere. Is that something that is worthy of elevation to a goal?
Commissioner Patterson, of course, we'll look into that and see if we can provide that as part of what we look to do, is to conserve as much as possible.
I think we're good.
Okay. Is there anything on the policy side that we haven't covered? It is a lengthy one. I'm starting to see a little bit of eye rolls going.
I may have some thoughts later. Did you say we can add our thoughts on the website? There's a commenting link on there that goes directly to this team? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you are welcome to contact in a couple different ways. If you would like to email me directly with your comments, just one of note, please do not email each other on this particular item. We do not want to violate open meeting law, so please email me directly with
Good
those
reminder,
comments.
thank you.
The residents and yourselves can also go onto the website and provide comments as well through the website.
That's Peoria, Plan Peoria AZ?
PlanPeoriaAZ.com.
.com. Okay.
And so with that, I will say we will conclude this portion on the study session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you to all of you. Great job on that. Really helped me, I can only speak for myself, understand this a lot better than I did at the start of the meeting, so.
Thank you. We had
Appreciate
great
that.
feedback tonight. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, if that's okay for the commission. Let me get one more chance. Any further questions of anybody? Okay. Next agenda item is called the public. Are there any comments from the public on non-agenda items? Seeing none, let's move to our next item. That's reports from staff. Staff, please present your report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, while we love to be in front of you, we would not like to be in front of you on July 4th. We hope you have a wonderful holiday. We would like to be able to see you July 18th. We'll be returning for a regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you then. All right, next is Planning and Zoning Commission updates and report of current events. Do any commissioners have any updates or current events to report? Seeing none, I call this meeting adjourned.